Japanese people repair a cup which is broken. They repair it, and then the cracks they make beautiful with silver or gold sort of lacquer stuff. And the interesting thing is, a cup which has been repaired is actually more beautiful and worth more than a brand new one. The rationale being it has lived. We all go through life and we all have cracks. People all have the same problems. Why hide it? This is life.
Welcome to Don't Step on the Bluebells, the podcast where personal healing and transformation take center stage. I'm your host, Amanda Parker, and I'm a fellow seeker on the journey of personal growth. Join me as I delve into the stories of gifted healers, guides, and everyday people who have experienced remarkable transformations. Listen in as they share their practical wisdom to enrich your everyday life. And don't forget to hit subscribe and never miss a new episode. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of samurai swordsmanship and its surprising applications in modern life. Our guest, Björn Aris, has had a life story that reads like an adventure novel. From investment banking to entrepreneurship, now a respected Japanese swordsmanship instructor, Björn has spent over 35 years exploring the intersection of martial arts, Zen philosophy, and business leadership. In this episode, we'll discover Zen in action through swordsmanship, how ancient samurai wisdom leads to personal healing and growth, practical insights on achieving balance, reducing stress, and enhancing performance in personal and professional life through Eastern wisdom and Western knowledge. Whether you're a martial arts enthusiast, a business leader, or someone seeking unique perspectives on personal development, this conversation promises to be enlightening and transformative. So grab your imaginary sword and let's step into the dojo of wisdom with Björn Aris. So Björn, I'm so happy that you've said yes to join us here on the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, how could I not? Thank you so much for having me.
Well, what a nice way to start.
Oh, definitely. But we had such a nice encounter and then a pre-interview chat, which was meant to be like a short chat, but it lasted already for 45 minutes. So, wonderful. Thank you so much for doing all this, for taking all the time and effort for the Bluebell podcast and, for you being you.
Well, I will take that compliment. Thank you just for being me. So I would love to hear, maybe before we dive into all of the specifics of what you do, just what is it that you're most excited about in your life at the moment?
When you practice an art like a do for way, as in Iaido, Japanese swordsmanship, middle age starts at 60 years of age. So in the West, it's a bit of black and white, but the belief is that your life career goes up to 40, and then you get your peak, and then from there you go downhill to pension. And 60 is considered to be old and out of the market. Whereas when you do Iaido, the swordsmanship, it's a long way, gradually rising, long start, and then around 60 you arrive at middle age. And so there you get into the band, and then the peak is at the end. Now, I heard this like 20, 30 years ago from teachers who were 70, 80, 90. And I thought, okay, sounds interesting. I believed it, especially because one sensei, he said he was himself surprised well into his 70s. But he said, I have never good thought of what I would have learned as from 60. And he was already then practicing for 40 years. So what happens with me now, I am 59, so in the last year of my youth, and I notice I notice changes in my body, and I also notice specifically that I need to let go of all patterns. So I'm really into this transition. In my training, I see improvement visually and factually, which is surprisingly, but it's nice. I need to work hard for it, but it's nice. And now I need to let go of old youth things and really change. And that is not always easy. Letting go is not always easy. So I'm in that process at the moment. So, I'm going through it. So there's an up and a down. The letting go feels a bit like a down because you're letting things go, but this is the process.
That's such a beautiful framing of what it's like to go through a major transition and to do it with intention. A lot of people do it with, I would say, fear and blindfolds. They don't want to know what's coming. They're afraid of what's coming. And it's not just that specific transition that you're in, but any major life change that you're going through, moving house, changing jobs, starting a family, retiring, whatever it is. And it sounds that you're really just being present with what's happening in your life now and observing what that is and just being there with it.
That's what it is. Yes, definitely. Yeah. And I feel it. I live it, and it happens. And then suddenly things are gone. I think, oh, okay. And then you move on. It's just, things change. And like the other day on Friday, I found something new and I thought, oh, I'm going to practice this for 3-4 days. And then after day 3, it was gone. I thought, this is how it works. And then something new will come up. Maybe tonight. I don't know yet. We'll see.
I love this. I tend to be one that holds on to the anxiety of the change, the creation of suffering, let's say.
Yeah. But it's a continuous exercise, right? Being present is a continuous exercise, and it becomes easier over time because you are aware of the fact that your thoughts are not the same as what is. Normally, I don't speak about this in interviews, or podcasts. But what I figured out when I started to do Zen, I started when I was 28, was that I could easily, first of all, from a rational point of view, it's not difficult to understand Zen and the whole concept. That's not really useful because you need to feel it. You need to assimilate the knowledge. And then I got the frame, the picture, the theory, and then I noticed that sometimes I was moved or things happened in my life which were giving me pain and sorrow, or I was afraid something would happen, but I was very much aware that it was not happening actually. So I was fooled by my thoughts, but the feeling of fear or pain was there. So I thought, this is extraordinary. So what I did then as a sort of self-therapy, self-help, is the moment I will really, when the shit hit the fan, I sat down on my cushion, my Zen pillow, meditating and just going deeper, and the energy the fear creates helped me in getting deeper. And eventually you will find something, a little picture which is hit by this thought, which needs to be neutralized, cleansed, or whatever you want to call it. Adverse events help you in life. First of all, they energize you, and if you direct that energy, you can go deeper and clean yourself or heal yourself or get it more aligned or whatever is the phrase.
It reminds me of a conversation I had with another guest on the podcast who practices a form of shamanism. Mm-hmm. And he talked specifically about how we spend all this time building this energy. So maybe it is in the fear or the anxiety or the nervousness. You spend all this time building all this energy up within you. And then as, a Western society trying to understand spiritual practices, we say, okay, now release it. Just let it go. Let it all go. And he goes, why would you let that go? You spent all this time building this power of this energy within. Why would you just let it go? Why not just transition it or transmute it into something else? Exactly. So I hear a bit of that in what you're sharing as well.
Absolutely. But the point is the energy is there. So what are you going to do with it? Just an example. I went through a divorce, and at one point, taking care of my 2 kids. At one point, at Wednesday, I thought okay, at Friday, I won't have money for food. So having 2 young kids, 3 and 5 at the time, or 3 and 6, I thought this is a problem, and how am I going to solve this? The kids need food, I need food. So I got a bit of a panic. And then for that day, I had €5 on a Wednesday. So I went with my daughter to the bakery, she was 3, to buy bread because we needed bread. And so the bread was like €2. And then my daughter says, Dad, can I have a croissant, please? And I looked at her, and I thought, I said yes. I said yes, which was 60 cents. I thought, okay, good. And she was happy. And I got home and I thought, this is not going well. So what am I going to do? Because I realized that, it's Wednesday now. We've got food for tonight. It's not Friday, but I'm panicking for Friday. And so I sat down meditating, and in the end, you go deep, 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 and then you find some rock where you can cling to and think, like, oh, okay, I still have like 48 hours. And miraculously, then, within these 48 hours, the heavens kick in, and suddenly money comes from somewhere. And this has happened to me a couple of times. So it's this feeling like, you create this vacuum, ground yourself deep, and look for what's the root cause of your panic. Because why should I panic now for something which might happen on Friday? This is actually, from a Western rational point of view, ridiculous. And but it happens that you panic. But when you use the energy to go deeper, 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 then it helps you get more grounded, you get more clear, you clear up your system, and then up until now, something has always happened that resolved it. Which is, I think, wonderful how it works. I don't know how it works, but that it works. There is an interaction with your environment, with the heavens, with whatever you want to call it, with your guides. It's there.
I love this example, and I'm going to share a much more superficial version of that, where there was something that I was paying for. It was like a beauty service. And it ended up being way more money than I had wanted to spend, than I thought that I could spend. And in the same literal moment that I'm having this realization that, like, oh my God, this is actually going to be something that is out of budget, that I didn't actually want to put the money into. And then I check and see that someone has signed up for an online program that I had online for literally the exact same amount of money. And I just sat there going, there's no way. And of course, I was a little bit pissed at the price of everything. And I still thought, Amanda, this is working out exactly as it's supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are the nice little things in life, which think, oh, yeah.
And it's funny when you think of how many things you might deprive yourself of for those same reasons, because you are afraid that it won't work out or it won't come through. And that's almost cutting off that whole flow and communication with what could be possible.
Oh, I'm so with you. I mean, fear is the biggest blocking factor.
Yeah.
And I think 90+% of fear is illusion. It's made up. There's no reason for it. And another one-liner is that 90% of what people regret is what they did not do. We wanted to do, and they didn't do it because of fear or excessive thinking or, all that sort of stuff. I mean, fear. I was in Africa at one point, attacked by an elephant. And then, you shit your pants and you run really, really fast. and later I realized I was not afraid. My body did what it needed to do. And that's actually a very interesting concept, that your body will take care. Your body will do what is necessary, unless, of course, you block it. But at that moment, I ran. So the body knew what to do.
Well, this is the perfect transition, because I would love to hear in your words, what is this samurai swordsmanship? What is this work that you've dedicated so much of your life to?
Yeah, well, samurai swordsmanship is actually a school or nearly a religion. Maybe it's Zen in action. I would call it myself Zen in action, and it's a do, a way. Do is the Japanese word for way, a way of life. When you get born, you die. What are you going to do in between? Well, these schools, they provide you with a structure that will ensure development and enriching. Development of your life, enriching of your life, and actually make it a very interesting life. And it's dedicated. It used to be swordsmanship to survive, right? You were fighting on the field, and when you had a good technique, you would walk away, and the other one would stay there in various pieces, because that's what a sword does. So that was the original way, and then later developed until so from survival. It turned into a way to learn how to live life. And it teaches you, well, first of all, it takes care of the body, the mind, and the soul. And it teaches you unification of body and mind, with, as a result, an increased awareness. I would call that a widening of your horizon, a deepening of your consciousness. And as a result, exponential rise of quality of your life. And how would be the first question. Well, very, very simple. The more you practice and you develop yourself on the inside, the more you get detached from the outside for feeling good. Because feeling good is something which is on the inside. And in the West, we are taught that feeling good is on the outside. Like when you have
like those beauty treatments.
And for example, when you have your car or your career or your house or your boat, whatever, you need to have stuff in order to feel good, which is not the case. Your basic things, okay, your bed, a roof, that's of course food. But freedom is on the inside and feeling good is on the inside. And the more aware you become, the more you can interact with the environment, with whatever that is. And the environment, in Japan, they call it ma. Ma is space. And we, in the West, we think that space is empty. But space is not empty at all. First of all, music you can hear music because of the space in between the notes. And so you need that space. It's an interaction. So I have a physical body, and it correlates with the non-physical body, which is not visible. It's unseen, but it's there. A very basic example, Radio Bolivia is right here now. I'm based in The Hague, Holland. You are in London. We both have Radio Bolivia in our room.
What is Radio Bolivia?
Radio Bolivia is the radio station from Bolivia, the country in South America, and they do night music. And
so just checking.
Yeah. But radio is still it's with you and with me, but we can't hear it.
Yeah.
But when we get this world receiver, I'm going to look for the station, then suddenly we hear this nice music, which is Radio Bolivia. You can hear it it's not the little box, the transistor radio, which creates that sound. It makes it audible. So that's interesting because the music is already there. And this is an easy to understand example, I think, for a lot of people. So when the music is there, a whole lot of other things are there as well. And it's interesting to interact with it. And the more you develop in Iaido, so in swordsmanship, the more the horizon of widens, consciousness deepens, the more you can receive and interact with. And this is really enriching than a lot of windows, I would say. Or maybe a better thing, you've got this with Christmas, you've got these calendars for the last 24, 30 days with chocolates behind each window, right? So the more windows you can open, the deeper you practice, the more windows you can open, the more chocolate you get. And this is the long start, and then you get into the bend, and the peak is at the end. So like when you're 80, 85, then there's so many windows are open that you easily step through the last window. It's like very smooth.
I love that. I was just thinking as you're talking about, that's really practice building, the Advent calendar. You're really practicing every day, but you're getting a reward.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Oh, definitely. But that is, I'm so enthusiastic about it. I practiced for 40 years. And I can still remember the first moment I started to practice, like 10 minutes, I was like exuberated, like, whoa, this is for me. I was 20 years old. And I can remember that Wednesday, that moment. It was a Wednesday evening. And that feeling, it's a high quality feeling of light, of pleasure, of like insight, really like, wow, this is in connecting. And I regularly still have those moments. And this is, and the quality is the same. So in the end, it adds up. So you build the collection of light and insights builds up, and in the end, more and more. But the pleasure is still like 100%. So already now, I'm looking forward to my training tonight, not knowing what will happen, but I'm sure something which will happen. There's always happened something, which will think like, oh yes, nice. And this is how you build it up. So it's in the West we have this idea, a bit of probably not all over the West, but in Holland you have this Calvinistic thinking, which roughly says like life is suffering, and when you listen to the priest or the vicar, it will tell you what to do, then maybe you will be allowed to go into heaven. This is a belief, and but it's all very dark and difficult, and you're not allowed to enjoy. Well, I don't think that's the case. I think that life is wherever you are on the planet. It's a way. It's with a lot of bends, and you cannot see around the corner. But in my experience, especially when you practice swordsmanship, which is my flavor, I mean, there are 10,000 flavors. Around every corner, there's a bench. You can sit down and have a rest.
Hey.
And then when you look next to you, you see a little package and think, oh, what's that? And then you look at it, oh, it says my name on it. And you open it, and then, it's either a piece of insight or an idea or something you can let go. And that's nice. So then you have to take your rest, and then you continue your way. And this is how life is. Of course, you need to walk. This is important. Otherwise, you will not move forward.
So thinking about swordsmanship in practice. So you're not obviously going to a battlefield every day with a sword and facing off. I mean, I don't actually know. Are you doing that? The real question is like, what does that look like as a practice, as like something that you're doing? Because you say it's Zen in action. So I can start to get a feeling of what that might mean.
Well, Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. When you say going to the battlefield, that reminds me of my time when I was working as an investment banker. That is going to the battlefield.
That is
every
appropriate.
Day. that is so sharky. That's really not pleasant. But swordsmanship is all about harmony, peace, and understanding, compassion. To develop it. Now, in order to develop it, you need to clean your system. Otherwise, you resonate with the negative issues from someone else, and then you get to the deadlock. So how do we do this? We go to a dojo. And a dojo is a place where you just practice. Could be a gym, could be a field, could be a hall, could be any place. Originally, the dojo was the place in front of the shrine in the temple. Even today, they practice sword techniques in the temple at that place in front of the shrine to clear the environment. So with swordsmanship, you cut through the air with intention, and apparently that changes the atmosphere. So this is interesting because it's not visible, but you can feel it. And even people, and I've noticed it, people who have never thought about spirituality, let alone swordsmanship or the effect of it, they notice, hey, what's going on here? Something's different. So it's quite strong. The dojo, actually, it's a Japanese word, so you could translate it as place where you practice martial art. There are many translations. The translation I like best is place of awakening. And the question, of course, is what awakes? Well, that's for everyone to find out themselves. And we start the lesson with Zen meditation, which is very simply said, counting your breath. And for a small period of time, like 5 to 10 minutes. And then we do warm-up, and then we practice kata. Now, a kata is a little story of a fight. And because we don't have opponents, with the sword you can't train with opponents because it's dangerous. So we have to visualize the opponent. But the way the kata is written, designed over the years and sometimes centuries, it's very clear how the fight is conducted and what you should do. So it's defined. So the kata is actually a little box in which the fight takes place, and you have to behave in a way or cut in a way to win the fight. And the interesting thing is that it is a box with information. How is the fight going? What is happening? At the same time, when you go deeper, there is knowledge, and at its deepest, there's knowing. The kata has strict barriers, and you need to have these strict barriers to find the freedom. Now, that sounds like, this strict barriers and freedom is opposite. But when you're on a leaf on the river, you float on the surface. And depending on the wind or the stream, you go left, right, or you get stuck on the side. But the treasure is deep, it's hidden. You need to dig for the treasure. You look at the treasure map, you need to dig for it and dig deep, and then you will find the treasure. And this is the reason why the kata is confined with barriers, with limits, i.e. strictly written how it should be performed, because that forces you, between brackets, to go deep. You're not allowed to cross the barriers. So you have to go deep. You have to go through the barriers in yourself in order to find the treasure. And at the same time, it's still fighting. So you cannot do it like a bit of like recreational, waving the sword, like la-di-da. It's the intention of how you perform the kata is you take a life or your life is taken, which is quite an unpleasant thought. When the first time I heard that, I thought, oh no, that doesn't feel good. There we go, it doesn't feel good. Why? And so by digesting on the subject, which took me 6 or 7 years, seriously paying attention to, like it calls out all sort of emotions and fears and other stuff you need to work with and continue practicing and cutting through the air in order to release that and get deeper. And the purpose of the sword art is saya no uchi, which means to win the fight without drawing the sword. Obviously, you can only do that, possibly, when you know how to draw the sword very good and quick, because then you know what you're talking about, so you can step away from it, or it doesn't become necessary. You avoid it from like 10 kilometers distance.
There's a few points that you brought up in that sharing. So one, for me, what I'm hearing is that so the swordsmanship is something that used to take place in front of the shrine to really clear the air and energy, I assume, to make it maybe more holy or clearer, cleaner for people to actually go and be able to worship.
Absolutely. And still today it happens. Like 2024, this still is practice.
So it feels like the swordsmanship is a type of energy healing in a different context. Yes, I would. If maybe I would call it. I've never called it that before. I would call it light working. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
Well, light working is that you are able to clear energy with someone or in an environment and make it more harmonious.
And at the same time that you're actually doing that light working in front of the temple, it's doing that work within yourself as well.
You have to do it first here in order to be able to do it there. Of course. Here you can do the work, and that will allow eventually to perform it on the outside. For example, I cannot connect with you if I can't connect with myself. So first I need to be able to connect with myself before I can connect with someone else.
And I would assume that in that practice, the people who are actually clearing the energy in front of the shrine, they've been practicing for a long time. Is that like a position of honor to be able to do that?
I would guess so, yes, because the further someone is on the way, the more purified he or she is. Interesting is that in Japan, I think it's about 40% of the females practice swordsmanship as well. So it's not, samurai seems to be very male, but it's both sexes.
Yeah, I think I asked you that in our first conversation, just that this was a more masculine, masculine sort of practice. Let's learn more,
Yeah. Well, they taught me a lot about women.
Yeah. Watch out for a female samurai with a sword.
Well, females in general. Yeah.
So something else that you had said that I find really interesting and also powerful, I know, especially for people who are listening, who are like finding their own journey forward through healing or transformation, and this concept of the freedom in the boundaries, freedom in constraint. And it's something that actually my husband and I have talked about quite a bit in terms of, if you have all the freedom and possibilities in the world, then you're going to be overwhelmed. It's hard to know where to begin or what to do. If you actually have strong constraints, it's easier to begin and feel fulfillment and see progress, etc. So I find that so powerful, especially maybe particularly in a Western world, but for a generation of people who have any possibility in the world at their fingertips. And it almost feels like as a result of that, there's like a rise in loneliness or anxiety or depression, or that people are really struggling because they don't know how to find themselves within that.
It's amazing. It's like, I did my first keynote on this subject in 2006. And at that time, I think 6 or 7% of the Dutch labor market had burnout symptoms. And I thought, we can change this. And then 30% was chronically tired. Well, what does it mean, chronically tired? It means that you forgot how it is to feel good. You started with your double espressos, in midday you throw in the Red Bull and God knows what. So I thought, this has to change. And my audience, they were all captains of industry. They were with me. So I thought, okay, it will change. I was hopeful. Maybe 1 or 2 years. Well, now we're 2024, 20% of the Dutch labor market has burnout symptoms. It's like, I cannot believe it. So it's really, it's going up there. It's amazing. Then again, so this means it's a growth market for me to look at it from that side.
On all fronts, yes.
On all fronts, yes, that on all fronts, indeed. It's a 360.
Yeah.
The first thing is that it's about body and mind. And body is something which is not addressed in our culture. What we did is like around Descartes and from there, Descartes, the French philosopher, what he did is he lifted rational thinking to be equal to reality. Well, this is not the case, because if that would have been the case, we fixed the equation on both sides and no problems. So we'll look around you, there are many problems. So it's not reality. It's a language. Like Java programming is a language, or French is a language, or playing cello is a language. It's a language. And it's not solely a head thing. And what swordsmanship teaches you is that it starts with your gut feeling, the hara. And from the hara, you move up to the heart. And then from the heart and up, then you use the head for the outcome. So it's the third thing you put on top of it. This is the order. But this is okay. Everybody understands the logic, and now even the science is investigating that there are a lot of sort of brain cells in your gut area, and the signals going up from the vagus nervus or something to the brain instead of the other way around. I remember somewhere around 2000 there was the first research on people where they put all these electron things on the body and on the mind. And then there was an event, like a sound or a picture. And then the first reaction was here in the heart. And the significantly later, from science point of view, it was the brain. This tells me that the wisdom of the body is exponentially greater than the intelligence of the mind. So we need to learn to listen to the body and connect to it. But this is not in our curriculum. This is not what we do in daily practice. We do everything rational thinking and by hand. So this is one. But then when you contact the body, you start to feel. And you also start to feel things which are not pleasant, which are stored there, which you put away. And people are afraid for that. They think, oh my God, or maybe it will feel so terrible, I won't be able to do this and that. And then so they don't do it. And the balance in nature is that in principle, your body will never give you so much that you can't bear it. It will always be dosed. And my personal experience is that, of everything I thought it would be disastrous, like it was like 100 units of suffering, it always turned out to be 2 to 5 units. But my image was like, no panic, I don't dare to. And then, squeeze your buttocks. Oh, I'm going to do it. And then, that wasn't actually too bad. But I think you need to have, the desire and the courage to do it. And courage is from the Latin word cor, C-O-R, which means heart. So you need to have the heart to do it. When there's too much fear, then you're not doing it. So by connecting with the body, you start to feel and you start to heal. You start to let go of excessive tension and made-up fears. But also, of course, all traumatic events, which are not there anymore. But the imprint is still there. So if you neutralize that, then, that part of the past will lose its control. It will not determine your behavior at this very moment. So you're more free. So you're rising the wildness. There's more room for life, more room for new experiences. So this requires daily practice, which is training, and the confinement or the rules or the barriers, so that you don't skip away. Because it's like, when you go to this spot which is sensitive, it's like a magnet. You don't want to go there. You'd rather go away, which is natural behavior, of course. But the kata helps you, guides you to constantly address it and to, do your cuts and do your thing. And part of the work is of course, on the subconscious level. So you don't know what is happening, but you're feeding the system and it has its own rhythm, its own time. And you get your rewards. And the rewards are really worth taking every step again and again and again.
Okay, now I want to know, what are the rewards? What would you define as rewards of this practice?
Oh, well, this is a 1-hour podcast, right?
Maybe the highlights reel of rewards.
It's the feeling of being extraordinarily rich. Really, that feeling. And I have been at my investment banking time. I was wealthy. I've done everything you can do with money, which didn't make me happy at all. And actually, it resulted in that I gave half of my money away to people I thought I really needed it, and the other half I used for experiences, because I think life is about experiences. It's not about thinking this and that and then not doing anything. You need just experience. And so I had a wealthy life according to Western standards before my 35 years old. After that, I became so much more rich, having no money, having the €5 on a Wednesday and being worried about how I'm going to get food for my kids. Despite that worry, tremendously rich because of the feeling, the interaction, the connection, the awareness, the independence. So the freedom, the real freedom. And the growth. It doesn't stop. It's not like 40 and down. No, it continues. And with so much life force and just feeling good. Everybody wants to have this feeling. It's like it's orgasmic, but then much longer. And it's more, it's better, it's higher, it's more heavenly. And this happens during the day a couple of times and in training. Yeah, and eventually the kata will take over, which is very interesting. But first you learn the kata. You need to learn the form. Where do I put my foot, my head? Where is this guy actually? Where do I cut him? And so you need to learn this basics. And then this will allow you, because you know the barriers, to go and train the inside. And so, today I want to train this. And then I found out that at one point in my development, I wanted to train something. But then at the first kata I practiced, normally you practice like 100, 150, my body gave a different signal. I thought, this feels different. And I just started to follow my body. And this is where the form started to teach you. And this is where, everything becomes so much more magic, because it goes like, whatever I'm thinking is apparently irrelevant. My body tells me something different. And I think this is why being a human is wonderful, that we can do this consciously.
So if someone is listening now and they're like, okay, I want to learn how to practice this. What does that look like? What does that mean? Do you find a dojo? Do you read a book on Zen?
Well, it's follow your heart. I think that's important. The way it works, in my view, is that, we all have intuition. Now, the trick is to learn how to listen to it. And when you've got an orchestra, a lot of instruments, players, then at the moment people have in their head a full-blown orchestra, like the drums, the violins, the trumpets, everything is going, hence the 20% burnout. Whereas the intuition is the triangle ding in the back. You can't hear it. So first thing we need to do is to slow down the orchestra and to put the noise down. So you can allow yourself, oh yeah, I hear it, okay. Maybe that's intuition, So you need first to define, what am I hearing? Because it could also be emotion interfering, all pictures, and especially when you're not grounded, it's like, oh, you feel everything, which is all trauma, sending noises. So the first step will be how to learn to listen to your intuition and your heart. And then if you can do that, then the second thing is to learn to trust it, because what might be interfering is conditioning. And the way you are taught or educated, or the way you've been taught to think. And we have all had this experience. We all had the experience that you felt it was X, and then you started to think, you decided to do Y, and then after, in the end, it was, oh no, it was X, and you said, I knew it. Yeah, of course you knew it, because it was your intuition. Your conditioning took over. So this is important. So before sending everybody to dojo and swordsmanship, people should follow their own way, because there are many flavors. Now, swordsmanship is a flavor, flower arrangement, drawing of calligraphy, many ways to develop this. But very important is to look on the inside in order to be able to perform on the outside. That's the order. And then the way of learning is, first you get your information phase, then you start to practice within the barrier, and so you can deeper, and then in the end the kata, or the form, will take over. In Japan, everything is kata. Everything is set form. Here in the West, we're more tend like, oh, today we do this, and tomorrow we do that. And having said that, my practice of swordsmanship is not purely swordsmanship. Of course, this is what I do. But next to it, I have done various education courses for intuitive development. I did neurofeedback. This is electronic way how to trim your frequencies. I've done all sort of extra activities and teachings which contributed to my swordsmanship. And they came on my way, as swordsmanship did. I mean, I never envisioned myself becoming a swordsmanship practitioner, let alone write about it, let alone do keynotes about it. This all developed. It happened to me in a natural way. Importantly to say with this is I always did what I felt I had to do. Whereas a lot of people always said, this is your weak point because you don't think. You just do. And indeed. Yeah.
Also.
Yeah. Looking back, I can see a very clear line on how I got here and how I, keep on doing this. Even if I want to, if I think I want to do something else, life pulls me back to sort that, which is okay. I'm happy with it. But so basically connect to the body. This is the most important point. Connect to the body and everything which hinders in the body. Try to resolve it. Try to work with it. And there are many ways to do this. So whatever is your taste or whatever works for you, this is it will free up space. And you need to have free space on the inside to enjoy life more. Because life is on the inside, not on the outside.
So what I'm hearing is that there's almost this first to feel that nudge of either intuition or something kind of calling you forward, to learn how to listen to that intuition and then learn how to trust it, that this is actually what you need to be listening to. And that's probably through practice and doing and seeing the results of what happens.
Indeed.
And then seeing what are those things that actually come in. So in your case, this was the swordsmanship that came in and keeps calling you. But for someone else, it could possibly be yoga, or it could possibly be a different meditative practice, or it could be, I don't know, walking in the forest, like something that continuously calls you into a practice that you're doing regularly so that you're able to connect both with your body, your mind, and your spirit on a regular basis.
It's interesting because what you mentioned, I do yoga. I do Bikram yoga since a couple of years. It tremendously helps me. I do forest bathing. So walking through the forest, because when you connect with that, you it's like a bath. They call it forest bathing in Japan. I do meditation. All these sort of things I do because it's all helping and staying connected with my body, and in the end, this is also what swordsmanship is for, working on becoming a better human being. And the way to do that is to get rid of the hindrances and the old trauma on the inside, and whatever way you go do for that is. One thing which is not often mentioned, but which is key in whatever you do, whether it's forest bathing or meditation or anything, is discipline. Discipline is key.
Oh gosh, I have a hard time with that word.
Yeah. Well, discipline is key.
Yeah, that's fascinating, because even as a coach, what I usually bring to my clients, do you go to the gym and you show up once or twice a week, every so often, and expect to see, your muscles growing and a six pack? No, you need to keep showing up for what it is that you want and what you want to create. Yeah. And then over time, after showing up, you'll be able to see the results of that and to feel the results of that.
Yeah.
And it's life lessons for me too.
Yeah, and but just never give up. Never give up. So this is where the fighting comes in. You need to fight for yourself. And of course, I have moments that I really do not feel like going to the dojo. But I learned that there's absolutely no need to feel like going to the dojo in order to go to the dojo. Yeah, you can easily
point.
Yeah, but this so it's already where you can. This is the Zen thing, of course. That you're aware of the thought. I don't feel whatever. That's okay, fine. You can have that thought. It doesn't interfere with going to the dojo. This is where the discipline comes in, and always, after training, you can thank yourself so much. I'm so happy I did it, or going to the workout or the yoga, whatever. You always feel rewarded. I'm happy I did it. You did it for yourself, but you need to do it.
So how was it that you found swordsmanship? Because it sounds like it was almost by accident.
It was it was karma. And I started doing jujitsu, which is fighting, which was like, whoa, this is something I can do. This fits with me. And then my girlfriend at the time, she gave me the book Shogun from James Clavell, which deals with old Japan, and everything was Japanese was like, oh, wonderful, Japanese cup, oh, I love it. And these samurai guys, they did Zen. So, oh, I need to do Zen. So I came in with my pinstripe.
Look at what they're doing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like copy paste. This is how it starts. Copy paste is how we human beings start. And I didn't understand anything of Zen, really, like nothing. And I thought we spoke the same language, but I thought, what are they talking about? I can't make money this way. I was a banker at the time, but I was intrigued. And so I developed, and then I at one time met in my jiu-jitsu dojo a teacher who did Iaido, swordsmanship, and it was mesmerizing. It was mesmerizing. He did something with the atmosphere, and the way it was his energy. And I thought, wow, this is special. Sometime later, I was in the bookshop, and I saw a cover of a Japanese sensei, Japanese teacher, with a sword on the cover, and I saw the cover, and I knew this is what I need to do. I didn't buy the book. I just saw the cover. I went out, looked for a teacher to start, and started to train with the sword. My teacher and I, we didn't go well together, so I parted after a year. And then I picked up my own pace and organized myself. And I was especially interested in the source, of course, because the water is the clearest at the source. So I really looked deep into, where can I learn it in Japan and whether it's related to this subject. I've been, teachers came on my way. This like boring, actually saying like, when you read the teacher appears, well, yeah, okay, true. Yeah. Took them a long time.
Yeah.
Having said that, one of my best teachers said to me after 10 years of practice with him three times a week, he said, Björn, all my students teach me something. And you, Björn, you teach me patience. Yeah. But wonderful. So, and in the meantime, you enjoy all these things. You enjoy these new insights. You enjoy that you can let go. You feel more free, more light, and the new experiences. And this is what life is about. So you live life.
And so now in your present day life, you actually help. So you teach, you've written books on the topic. You actually teach people how to engage with these techniques. Maybe you can just share a bit about what that looks like in your present life.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, present life as opposed to your 20-something investment banker life.
yeah. And I've got a couple of activities. Of course, my main, the red line in my life is practice. This is what I do. I've got a dojo where I teach people and practice myself. My teachings are for free because, you cannot price this. And then again, I think it's a huge responsibility to, if you have the knowledge, to share it. And I share unconditionally. First of all, how can I decide what I can share for someone, yes or no? I don't know. So I share unconditionally. And the more I share, the more space there is for me to learn. So I think this is a nice mechanism. Then, of course, I need to make some money. I translated the knowledge of swordsmanship into very practical teachings for business, for people on the work floor, for boards, for teams, and what have you. And I always use movement to explain, because first I do some exercises and they feel experience, and then I connect the theory. So then they can feel, and then they can place into a frame, which is a very rewarding way of learning things. This has been investigated scientifically, and I think the results were that after 2 to 6 months, after one workshop, people could remember 70% of the essence, and 83% of the participants adapted and changed one or two things in their business private life. So this is high impact, and I like that, because then this is useful for my life. It's not like I'm telling something and people don't remember it. So this is a waste of time for both parties. Like your average, PowerPoint presentation, and then you get your certificate. So this is what I've been doing for corporates and middle companies actually across the world. I've had more than 60 nationalities,
wow,
60 countries sharing this, and it works on all. It doesn't matter where you come from. It works because the basic concept of a human being is everywhere the same. We differ in the cultural layer, but underneath it's all the same. And you can see that because I read bodies, so you can see the body language. So when I was in Kenya at one point doing for the management of Kenya Airways, which were represents from Rwanda, Burundi, Sudan, Tanzania, whatever, and I saw exactly the same patterns in the movement, which reveals or revealed, like, their strategy, the way of thinking, or how they would behave in a meeting or under pressure, as in Europe or Asia. It's exactly the same. So this is what I do. Keynotes. Then to offload knowledge, I wrote books. And the first one is The Cutting Edge, The Martial Art of Business, which has been published in Dutch, English, Spanish, Romanian, Greek, I think. And I was contacted by a publisher, and he wanted to have a meeting, and I thought he needed a training. Because I thought these guys, they go from paper to publication. So how did they do that? So they wanted advice, and I could help them because I always combine my business experience as an investment banker with the present knowledge. So both sides I cover. And then after half an hour, he said, "I'm going to publish a book." I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "I'm going to publish. Was I allowed to have a book?" He said, "No, you're going to write one." And I thought he was joking. So I thought, okay, you joke, I could joke as well. I said, "Sure, deal." I thought, whatever. I thought this was a prank, and it turned out to be it was real. So then I had a bit of stress. I wrote the book, gave me tremendous headache because the way I am, I feel the moment, and then things come up, and then it feels good, so it's okay. But then when you need to write it down, it still needed to feel good, and this is the other side of the brain. So I need to go from here to there. This was like difficult. I managed. So that was The Cutting Edge. And then 4 years ago, I was at a seminar in Munich for the automotive industry and the aerospace industry. So all suits, doing a keynote. And then the people organizing it, or some of them, were young people, like 20, 25 years old. And so they asked me, "Well, what are you doing here?" So I explained to them a bit, and they looked at me like, "This guy's bonkers." What are they doing with a sword, And I did my keynote. And then they came to me and they said, "This is what we want. This is what we want." Exactly. The way you tell, this is how we should do it. And they were so enthusiastic, of course, which I felt heartwarming. And then on the way back from Munich to The Hague, it's 8 hours in the train. Halfway, I thought, I need to write a book for these guys. So this is where I wrote Lessons of a Samurai, the ultimate guide for meaningful existence. Which is translating in English as well, by the way. And it's a bestseller. It's skyrocketing. It's every day books are sold, which is highly rewarding and also humbling. So it really motivates me to do my best, better in the dojo. So I become more transparent because sometimes this responsibility is a bit too much. They think, "Oh, this really has effect." People, they get good reviews and it helps them in their life. And then think, "Oh, I need to do my best more in order to really have it clear and without any taste of my own in it." So this is what I do.
I hear so many other things that you do, if I may.
Of course.
Because I really, I have this sense of you, and not having worked with you in the same space or anything like that, but even just the nuances of what you share, that you can read bodies, like you are a healer in so much of what you're doing, helping people connect in with their own body just by what you see is happening and how that's shifting through the work that you do together, whether that's in the dojo or in like a corporate boardroom, same thing. And even with this purity of intention and clarity of intention, you're shifting the energy of a space. So as you said, the light working, but I mean, I have my own words for that. So it's a similar thing, but I see it in energy because I can also feel when the energy of a room shifts, and getting an understanding of why that's happening. For me, I have my own methods of how I might do that, often with humor or even just channeling Reiki energy or whatever it is. But that's spectacular. So the reason that I had reached out, and I mean, I told you this in my message even, because I had never even considered the possibility of this specific healing technique that you use. And I love how your answers have been very humble, that like, yeah, well, you just pick your art and you go with it and you go into the practice of it, etc. But the mastery of your craft and the way that you share it is such powerful healing work for everyone who gets to come in contact with you.
Onegashimasu. I'm getting shy now. Thank you. Yeah. I do my best. Yeah. And every day I try to be better than the day before. Yeah. And coming now to my middle age, there's still a lot of work to be done. But I look forward to it because it's fun. Yeah.
So if I asked you, what does healing mean to you, how would you answer that?
I used it with the lesson of samurai. It's a bit of I used the kintsugi, and the kintsugi is the way Japanese people repair a cup which is broken, and they repair it, and then the cracks they make beautiful with silver or gold sort of lacquer stuff. And the interesting thing is, a cup which has been repaired is actually more beautiful and worth more than a brand new one. The rationale being it has lived. And we all go through life and we all have cracks. People all have the same problems. But we don't talk about them. But when you do in a group, you think, oh yeah, I have that, I have them. We actually have all the same shit, if I could say. So why hide it? This is life. I've got lines on my face. This tells something about what I'm running for an elephant and all other stuff I did. This is what happens in life. So it's okay to share this. So to take off the mask and be yourself. And when you repair your inner trauma, the trauma the remembrance will stay, but the tension will go away. This is fantastic because then, first of all, you'll be a better version of yourself, a wiser version, but you will not have the past having control over you. And that's important because life is in the here and now, which is already gone. So there's a new now. And the invitation is to be fully present in the here and now. So that's the mark on the horizon. And on your way to it, whether you walked away via sword art or yoga or flower arrangement or anything, doesn't matter. As long as you do it, you walk and have the discipline to continue walking, you'll get there and you'll get a very rich life. And one of the moments I remember at 28, my relationship ended with my girlfriend at the time, and I was crying a lot. But I was also started Zen, and I suddenly realized that actually I felt much more when I cried than when I was laughing. And I thought, this is interesting. The feeling of what you have when crying is much more rich. It's a bit of a cotton feeling than laughing. And I thought, whoa, and so I became aware of actually that before that, I thought that crying is a bad thing to do. So I don't cry. But when that happened, I thought, oh, it's actually quite a rich emotion. So now and then you just need to offload and then enjoy that moment of emotion. So, you let go of the imprint of the conditioning and of the good and bad. No, things are.
Beautiful. I'm glad I got that question in there.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you would like people who are listening to know or walk away with from?
Have good trust in yourself. Have good trust in yourself. Not in the one you think you are, but in the one you really are.
Thank you so much, Björn, for joining us on the podcast and sharing so much wisdom. I know this is going to be a very new topic for many people who are listening, and definitely expanding the range of what's possible and how people can connect to themselves. So I really appreciate your time being here.
Well, thank you for all your good work and effort and goodwill to set all this up, to make it possible. Again, thank you for being you and having this wonderful encounter with you. It's really, really, it's like very warm and very welcome. If people have a question, they can always drop an email. I always answer. I've got time for it, and if I can do something, it makes my life worth living. So always welcome.
Your email address, everything will be in the show notes, but feel free to say it out loud now for those who are listening.
Okay, I'll do this then. It's the Björn Aris, this BJORNARIS @gmail.com.
Perfect.
And of course, it will be confidential, but welcome. Of course, welcome.
Thank you. And to everyone who's been listening in, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Don't Step on the Bluebells. See you next time. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Don't Step on the Bluebells. If you enjoyed this conversation, please give the podcast a 5-star rating wherever you listen. And don't forget to hit subscribe and follow along so you never miss a new episode.